Ice cream is enjoyed around the world 365 days of the year, served as a sweet or treat, eaten by young and old alike. We take eating ice cream for granted, but before the mass production of this delicious treat, it was only a privileged few who could experience this unique sensory delight. Its real origins may never be known, but various countries throughout the world all claim to be the starting point for what eventually became the ice cream that we know and love today. Nero, the Roman emperor, famous for allegedly fiddling while Rome burned, sent slaves to fetch snow and ice from the mountains to cool and freeze the fruit drinks he loved. You could say he created the first sorbets. The strong connection between ice cream and Italy is said to have started with the famous explorer Marco Polo, who, after seeing ice cream being made in China in the 13th century, introduced it to Italy on his return. While King of England in the 1600s, Charles I once held an enormous state banquet for all his nobles. His French chef created a dessert resembling snow that was said to be creamier and sweeter than anything my guests had ever tasted. The king offered his chef the unbelievable sum of £500 a year to keep his recipe secret. Unfortunately, the chef wasn't very good at keeping secrets, and Charles wasn't very good at keeping his head. He was executed in 1649 for treason. However, none of these tales are based on any historical evidence, and were probably invented by 19th century ice cream makers to help sell their products. The real story of ice cream begins with improvements in keeping food cold and the invention of refrigeration. In past times, ice cream could only be made in small batches by churning cream and sugar in a bowl surrounded by a mixture of ice and salt. Mixing salt with ice reduces its freezing point, and it was a very tiring process. About 150 years ago, the first ice cream machines appeared on the market. Large wooden buckets with a metal container inside, surrounded by the ice and salt mixture. A handle on the top turned a paddle that churned the cream in the container to add air and produce ice cream with a smooth, even texture. If you don't whip ice cream while it's being made, it goes heavy and soggy and can't be scooped easily. But a lot of ice is needed to make ice cream this way, so ice was imported into Britain from Norway, Canada and America and stored in huge ice houses for supplying to ice cream makers. Around this time, Italians coming to Britain from the provinces of Lucca, Frosinone and Isernia really started to grow the industry. When electric power and mechanical refrigeration appeared in the early 20th century, it was something that ice cream makers had been dreaming of for years. And that's where the story of Rizza's ice cream really begins. Italian brothers Gelsomino and Domenico Rizza came to Scotland from the small Italian village of Belmonte Castello near Monte Cassino. They opened a confectionery shop in Keith in 1914, but the First World War started and their business had to be put on hold. However, in 1919, Gelsomino, or James as he was now known, opened an ice cream shop in Aberdeen, and Domenico opened his own shop in Huntly in the late 1920s. James later moved to Banff to open a shop that had one of the first soda fountains in Scotland, but unfortunately the shop was destroyed in a fire, so he and his family relocated to Huntly. Domenico then left to take over a cafe in Lossiemouth, leaving James to develop the Huntly business. James's daughter Mary married Gordon Morrison from Rothiemay, and when Mary's older brother Carlo returned from the Second World War to help James run the shop, Mary and Gordon moved to Keith, where their son Philip was born in 1951. When Carlo died in 1965, Mary, Gordon and family returned to Huntly to help James with the business. In 1971, a wholesale ice cream operation was set up in Upper Kirkgate, Huntly, that became the centre of the business for the next 30 years. In 1975, after James and Domenico had both passed away, the Huntley business took on the running of the Lossiemouth shop. In 1979, Philip married Nora, and with the arrival of their children, a new generation of the Morrison family came into being. Today, Rizzers Ice Cream is based in Huntley, in a purpose-built, state-of-the-art factory that can produce 1,500 litres of ice cream every hour. Rizzers Real Dairy Ice Cream is made using cream supplied by a local dairy and has won many awards. So how do we make ice cream in our factory? Rizzers Ice Cream is generally made from milk, double cream, sugar and natural stabilizer, with added ingredients like chocolate chip, fruit and flavourings. The fresh milk arrives in a refrigerated tanker and is pumped into the blending tanks, where it is combined with a base mix by rapid stirring. The resulting mixture is then pasteurized. Hot water at 85 degrees Celsius is pumped around the two 600-litre blending tanks. The hot water heats the mixture up and kills any bacteria that might be present. The pasteurized mixture is now pumped through a homogenizer. Homogenization is the process of breaking up the tiny blobs of fat in the mixture so it becomes more even, so the milk solids, stabilizer and fat in the mixture don't separate out later. This also allows the mix to hold on to more air for a smoother texture. After homogenizing, the mixture is cooled down through a heat exchanger to the same temperature as in a fridge, about 3 degrees Celsius. It is stored in a vat for several hours, or usually overnight, to allow it to settle, to improve the texture and stability of the mix. This is called aging. After the mix has aged, any extra ingredients such as fruit pieces and chocolate chips are added from a hopper through a fruit feeder or ripple pump, and the end result is put into containers. The containers go through a metal detector, and a batch code and best before date is printed on the side. They are then put into a very cold blast freezer to be frozen at minus 25 degrees. The containers are stored in our vast cold store until needed, where they will then be delivered to ice cream parlours, hotels, restaurants, hospitals, cafes, theatres, and many other outlets to be enjoyed and savoured. In any company that produces food, hygiene is very, very important. The regulations we must follow are as long as your arm, and we take great pride in our ongoing achievements in quality control and British Retail Consortium accreditation. We manufacture a wide range of products in our factory, and our ice cream, sorbets and double cream premium ice cream, as well as Celebration and Christmas Gateau, are distributed all over the northeast of Scotland, Tayside and the Highlands. Rizzers also keeps and distributes many well-known international brands of ice cream. In 2014, Rizzers celebrated 100 years in business, and Philip's eldest son Donald is steering the company towards future success, following in the footsteps of his great-grandfather all those years ago.